So what I want to cover, we're going to do a little bit more about object-oriented programming and classes. Then we're going to take a sharp left turn and start looking at HTML. So what I want to cover on classes is a few things that I don't think that we did last time. I know that we did the init method, and then adding methods to your class. But there are other things that you can do as well. And if you're a Java programmer, if you've already taken Java before you took this class, then you may be used to the idea of a toString method that will convert your data into a string for display or saving to a file or something like that. And also a .equals method so that you can compare two objects to see if they are the same object or not. And in C++, you do that by overriding the equals operator, the comparison operator, throwing in all sorts of fancy terms. We're going to see how to compare two objects to see if they're the same object or not. And how to convert an object to text for easy writing to the screen. So to do that, we just need to make up some basic little class. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to define a class called animal. Except you don't define classes with DEF, you use the class keyword. And it's going to have an init method and an animal has a species and a name. Really simple class. So all of your methods have to take the object itself as the first parameter. So self.name is equal to nothing. Self.species or breed. Don't talk about breeds if you have like, what is this breed of jellyfish? How about species? It'd be kind of neat if we made this thing accept these parameters so that as it was created, it could, we could create it in one line as is right now. If we wanted to use it, we would have to do this. I don't care if you type this or not. Animal, A1 is equal to animal, right? Like that. That would create it, and then you could set A1.name equal to, Bob. And A1.species is equal to, jellyfish. Patrick, starfish. Anyways, okay, there we go. So it'd be cooler if we could do this, right? A2 is equal to animal, Patrick, the starfish. Like that. Right now, this is the only one that's going to work. This one is not going to. This init method, also known as a constructor, is called when the object is being created by being invoked like that. We can pass in parameters to allow the setting of the name and the species. So I'm going to delete that comment, I guess. Well, I'll just leave it there. But anyways, here I'm going to modify this so that we have a name, but I'm going to give it a default value. And a species. You know what, those unknowns, leave them that way on yours, but they're too long for my screen, so I'm just going to replace them with question marks on mine. That way we can create it either way. If we make an animal like this, it just sets the name and the species equal to question marks until they get filled in. Or we can make an animal like this. And if we feel like being weird, we can make an animal like this. SpongeBob. Okay, let's change this thing up. Species equals mouse, comma, name equals Mickey. Like that. And then A4 is equal to animal with no data at all. So now we've created 4 animals. Let's print one of those animals out just to see what it looks like without changing any of this stuff. I want to print out Mickey Mouse, so I'm going to print out animal A3. Bless you. Save this. This is November 28th. I am taping, am I not? Indeed I am. Alrighty. So, just to make sure it works, here's what happens when I try to print it out. Yay. That doesn't tell me much useful information. It tells me it's an animal. That's pretty much all that we can glean from that. What we would like is if, when we print out the animal like that, it would actually print out some useful information. Just like when you print out, you know, a string or a float or an int. So we're going to define another function up here. def underscore underscore str underscore underscore double underscores, and they all have to have self, and we're going to return the name, return self.name plus a space, or how about the word the, plus self.species. Now when we print them out, well, that's real useful. It says the.
You need to delete 2 lines from Reddit.
What'd I do wrong? Oh, yeah. You see these 2 guys? Those are wrong. I need to change this. Self.name is equal to the name parameter that's passed in. Self.species is equal to the species parameter that's passed in. Mickey the Mouse. Heck, let's print the other animals out too. Print A1, print A2, print A3, and print A4. Just to make sure that all 4 of our cases are covered. A4 should just have question mark, or unknown, unknown, if you kept, you know, those question marks as unknown instead. And there we go. Okay, so it's working. Bob the jellyfish, Patrick the starfish, Mickey the mouse, and question mark the question mark. The what? Alrighty. So if you create a string method, string function, and put it as part of your class, then you can display it to the screen really easily. What would we have had to do without doing that? We would have had to print out a1.name plus a1.species, print a2.name, print a2.species, and so on. We have 4 animals. We could add them to a list. We can do some funky stuff like that. But instead, the last thing I want to do is this. Maybe not the last thing, but we'll see. I want the ability to do this. I'm going to make another animal that's also equal to Mickey Mouse, but it's kind of annoying me that those are lowercase letters, so I'm going to make Mickey Mouse uppercase. Excuse me for being picky. And A4 is also going to be Mickey Mouse. Mickey the Mouse. So his name is Mickey. His species is mouse. And here's what I want to be able to do. If A3 is equal to A4, print Mickey and Mickey are the same. Else colon, print Mickey and Mickey are not the same. They have the same data in them. They both have the name of Mickey and they both have the species of mouse, so it'd be really nice if this worked. And you can tell by the way I'm setting it up that it's not going to. They look the same, but it doesn't treat them as being the same. Why is that? Well, you remember that information that we were seeing when we were printing it out and it didn't have a string method? Just to prove to ourselves, go up here to our string method and delete the underscores, just for now. Stop it from working. Now when we print it out, that's A3 and that's A4. They are in fact not the same, right? They're residing at different areas in memory. They're not the same object. They are two different objects with the same values. We want that comparison to work. So we can do that. And I'm going to show you a kind of non-Python way of writing it and then a Python way. Let's go ahead and add the underscores back. If you were a Java programmer, you might write it like this. Define equals self comma other colon, and you would say if self.name not equal to other.name colon return false. If self.species not equal to other.species return false. And this is kind of like guilty until proven innocent. We have checked all the pieces of data, and so we can return true. Now I'm going. That doesn't fix our problem, though. And so we're going to make a change. The way that would work is we would have to do this. Don't type this because this is completely in the wrong place and everything. But you would type if A1 dot equals A2 colon, like that. Now that's not too cool, right? We'd just rather use equal equal. So this method doesn't work, but we can make it work. I'm going to delete that line. Change that equals to underscore underscore EQ underscore underscore. So you see why we returned false. If the names aren't the same, it's not the same critter. If the species aren't the same, then it's not the same critter. But if none of those tests failed, it means it is the same critter. If we went on and we added some other things that distinguish them, genus, height, weight, height, you measure the height of a jellyfish anyway, the weight or whatever. Whatever you did, you could put in here. You would have to add extra if statements. So if we put in a third attribute there, then we would have to add it here as well. But now that we've got that EQ method, pause there for a little bit longer, but if we run it, it should say that Mickey and Mickey are the same. And they are the same. Same as the definition of same in this case is they both have the same name and the same species. So when you're creating classes in this language or other languages, it's a good idea to give yourself the ability to compare 2 points and the ability to convert the class data to a string for display. And do you have to do that? No, not always, but it's a useful thing to do. If you're not going to be comparing the objects to see if they're the same, of course you don't have to do that. But what if you were going to write a search algorithm that was supposed to search the beginning of a list and you had a whole bunch of animals in the list and you wanted to check, Let's do that. Let's add all 4 of these animals to a list and then we'll consider this done. Capital L is equal to an empty list. L.append A1. Tell you what, we're going to do this even shorter. L is equal to square brace A1, comma A2, comma A3, comma A4. And then for value in list, print that animal, and then let's check to see if it's equal to our Mickey Mouse animal. I don't know why we're looking for Mickey in this fashion, but we are. If value is equal to an animal composed of the data Mickey Mouse, then print Mickey was found. Or more likely, we would have created this information beforehand. So let's do that. Underneath that L is equal to A1, A2, A3, A4, let's create a new animal to search for. Search is equal to animal, Mickey, mouse, whatever, like that. And then down here for our if statement, if the value is equal, I forgot, I only had one equal there. It has to be 2 for comparisons. Newbie mistake. So if value is equal to our search value, we found the mouse. Now 2 of them in that list, A3 and A4, have the same information. So we should see this message show up twice. Or not. Oh, yeah. Mickey the Mouse, Mickey was found, Mickey the Mouse, Mickey was found. So that did work. Being able to compare 2 objects like that, in case you're iterating through a list or something like that, you're traversing a list looking for a value or traversing a dictionary looking for a value, is a nice thing to be able to do. Yes, sir.
How come when you print out the list, it still shows the memory space where it's at?
I had y'all take out the underscore. Make sure you go back and put that in.
It's in there. Even when you print out the list, it's still, like, it'll work, but if you just print the list instead of going through the for loop, it'll still show the memory address.
Good question. Let's print the list. I had not considered this. That's a very good question. I would like for it to be doing exactly as you say and print all the animals. But instead, it's doing that. Whereas, if it was a list of strings, it would work. All right, we're going to have to do some Googling on that point. How to apply the string function when printing a list of objects. 3 answers. Try this. Oh, say what? REPW. All right, we'll trust it. We're going to add in an REPW feature. It's going to look exactly the same as this one. So just copy that defined string self, and paste it and replace the str to REPR. Yay. Thank you for asking that. That's pretty cool. So apparently that's a version of the string method that gets called when printing yourself out as a list. I expect dictionaries and other things would be the same, that they would call that method. As to why they have 2 different methods, I don't know. C++ and Java don't do that, so I'd have to look into it. Why don't we Google that? Why is there __string and __ripper in Python? The difference between string and representation. What's the difference? Represents goal is to be unambiguous, while string's goal is to be readable. I guess that makes sense. Oh well. Good enough information, I suppose. If you want to read about the REPR versus string, just Google up what you just saw me Googling and you've got it. Okay, so here's our complete function. Excuse me, our complete class for those of you all playing along at home. So let's put some comments up at the top here. Understand what init, str, repr, and eq are for when defining a class in Python. A little study note for us. Anybody need any portion of this code? Scroll up or scroll down? Are we all good? Scrolling down a bit further. There we go. All right, I think that's enough. Talk about classes. The idea behind classes encapsulating data. We didn't do anything interesting with this class. You know, we didn't add any extra methods to it, but I just wanted you to see how to convert them to strings, how to check for equality, and hopefully from our previous lectures you already have the idea of how to add methods that would do something to it. So we're moving into talking about HTML and JavaScript. If you go refresh or whatever and go into contents, you'll see that there's a subfolder of the notes folder called JavaScript PowerPoints. Should modify its name to HTML and JavaScript because that's what we're talking about. Can I edit it that easy? Probably not. Alrighty. So we're going to look at the one that says scripting HTML and CSS, which stands for Cascading Style Sheets. Now you could take an entire class on this, and in a distant past, I remember teaching one here. Don't know why it's not being offered currently, but it's not. But let's go and look at the PowerPoint for it anyways. As always, I recommend actually downloading it rather than viewing it in a little preview. Now this is quite a large document, and we're not going to cover every point on it, but we're going to dig into it a little bit. The reason why it's a large document is that HTML is a large subject. HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. It's what everything on the web is written in. If you go and look at a web page, you right click and do View Page Source, you see a bunch of HTML. Now Google has a whole bunch of scripts embedded in it, so we're seeing a whole bunch of JavaScript embedded in as well as just the basic one. If you go to a website that's much easier, old school 90s, I found an old one a long time ago that looked like this. That's all it's got. Okay, great. Right click on it, page source. You can see it's very short. Doesn't have any scripting in it. We see it's got an HTML tag up at the top. It's got this body tag here, and it says center, which means everything is supposed to be centered underneath that. And it's got BR, which stands for line breaks, and it's got IMG, which stands for an image. Looks like it's got an image tag for a Star Wars logo that we don't actually see working anymore. Then it's got a table and another image in it, and then a reference to another web page, website. So if that worked, if that page existed anymore, which is unlikely because this was 20 years ago, click original image, it takes us somewhere, and it's not going to work. It says connecting, but that's a hypertext link. You know what a link is. It just goes somewhere else. So we see a whole bunch of tags here, and by the time we're done reading this document, we're going to know what most of them do and more. Introduction to HTML. How does a web work? What is a web page? My first HTML page. How does the web work? Well, you have a computer here that serves up HTML. In old days, the HTML was just stored in a text file. And then when you contacted the server with a request from your browser, it would open that text file and feed the contents to your computer. That's really all that would be happening if you typed in a web address here. I want to go to yahoo.com. I would access it. There's a server software on the other side of the internet that would open a web page and feed it back to me. Now, nowadays, servers are scripted with back-end programming. These pages are not stored as files on the server. They're not just text files. They're very dynamic, right? They have all this stuff that's being generated on the fly by a program. And we will use Python as the back end to a web page after a while. But we have to know what a web page is first before we can do that. So your client, your browser, makes a page request over the internet, and the server responds by sending back a whole bunch of text. And that text that it gives you is this stuff. Whatever, you saw it for Google and it was really long. If we right-clicked over here and did view page source on D2L, we'd see that it is similarly long, because D2L is a very complex page. It's got all these things that light up when you move your mouse over them, and pull down menus and stuff like that. So it's a complex web page, which we see when we do that. And I know you guys who are watching the video aren't going to be able to see all this tiny print, but that's okay. So web pages are text files containing HTML, or more appropriately, it's just a series of text that is read by your browser and turned into a graphical web page. HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language, and it predates the web. A notation for describing the document structure and the formatting. The document structure is all the text, and the formatting is, whether something is bolded or highlighted or put into, a table or things like that. And the markup tags give you information about the page context structure. So there are tags such as HTML, which means start the document. Head, that starts the header of the document. Script, which encloses the JavaScript functions. Title, specifies the title of the page. Body, and okay, so we see a lot of different tags there. And then the tags must have their closing tags. The closing tag is the same thing, it just has a backslash. So go ahead and launch TextPad, and we're going to make a web page. So go to your start, and by the way, if you don't have TextPad at home, install it. Go to TextPad, just type it into your start menu, run it. I really do need a larger font on it than what we see here. Uno momento. Why do they hide the appearance of it? So carefully. File, editor. Oh, for Pete's sake. Alright, I managed to change it. So you wind up nesting things. Really? Maybe it's because I haven't saved it yet. Save as scripting. Just call this first page, or page 1, something like that. .html. And since you want to save it as an HTML, don't let it save it as a text file. Use the little pull down. Otherwise, it's going to call it page1.html.txt, which won't be of any use to us. So page1.html. Make sure it says HTML. Click Save. Almost not configured to right. One more time. HTML. Font. Yeah, thanks. Alrighty. Yippee. Okay. So, HTML. Head. We don't have anything in the header yet, but I'm going to go ahead and type it anyways. We might put something in it. And then slash head to close that section. This is where our header information will go. Blah, 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 blah. We don't have any yet. Body. Now let's add a paragraph of text. So inside the body, and one thing that is really good to do is actually to communicate the structure of the document with tabs, just like we do in Python. So a paragraph of text, this is my first web page. /p ends that paragraph. /body ends the body. /html ends the entire document. You see that little globe up there, View in Web Browser? If you click that, it'll show our web page. And it says this is my first web page. Say we want another paragraph. P, this is my, or I love HTML /p. View that one. And there we see it. This is my first web page. I love HTML. And some of y'all, I am sure, have used Dreamweaver or done web page work, and so you're all familiar with this stuff. But we all have to get familiar with it now, so we're going through it. So, what could we put in the header? Let's try putting a title for our web page. Go back to the text editor. Inside the header, title, it's going to be CIT 1203 /title. Now when I view it, not that you can really see it. Titles aren't really very useful anymore, but there, see? Back in the olden days, before you had multi-tabbed browsers, you know, put the title up at the top of the page, and we could see it. Now we can't really so much, but if you move your mouse over it, we see that it says CIT 1203. H1, headers. You can have various header sizes. Let's play with H1 a little bit. So at the top of it, underneath our body tag, H1, this is my header. H2, this is my subheader. Now you notice I kind of followed a different style there. You're totally allowed to, because spacing, formatting is totally unimportant in this. Unlike Python, where nothing works if you don't have it tabbed appropriately. I don't do this. But the code would work just as well if I did this, right? That's real ugly to humanize, but the computer doesn't care. I'm going to undo all that. So it is totally okay for me to decide that for short things like that, I'm going to go ahead and put it on one line. I could have done that with the title as well. Spaces are also pretty much ignored. If you have more than one space between words, it is ignored. So if I say, I love, and then I type in 20 spaces, when I run it, it's not going to look like that. I keep saying when I run it. When I view it in a browser, it still says I love HTML. We can see that it says this is my header, that's in the biggest text possible, this is my subheader, and then it's got my actual body of my document down here. So we nested tags inside of tags. The title tag is nested inside the header tag, which is nested in the HTML tag. By nested, just like nested loops, means it's inside it. The body tag is also nested as within the HTML tag. The header is nested in body as well as the paragraph. Alright, HTML file must have a .htm or .html file extension. You can make it with a text editor, like Notepad or TextPad. Or you can use a what you see is what you get editor. And if you're feeling like a masochist, you could create it in Word, do save as HTML, and then go and open that document and see what it looks like. It looks really bad. We see, I pasted that code from the Python over here. I'm going to do save as, and save it as an HTML file. Even if I do web page filter, let's take a look at what that looks like. Yeah. All right. So then when I go and edit it, scripting, right click on it, open with TextPad, it put all this stuff in there. And this is what Word considers filtered HTML, cleaned up HTML. Otherwise it would be even far longer and far nastier. So don't create pages with Word and then do a save as HTML and expect that you've done a professional job. Instead, you're going to use tools that are designed for writing HTML, or you're going to code it by hand. Probably need to get Dreamweaver if you're going to be a pro HTML developer, or I'm sure that there are open source variants nowadays, just like GIMP is an open source version of Photoshop. So HTML basics. It's got elements and tags. And then it says elements parentheses tags are nested inside one another. Makes them sound like they're synonymous. I call them tags. The first part is a tag. If there are any extra words inside the tag, those are called attributes. This is the image tag. And the attribute for the image tag is a path or name of the file. And also some alternate text to display if you're using a screen reader or something like that. So try to format your code to make it easy to read. Every block should start on a new line. Every nested block should be indented. Browsers ignore multiple white spaces, but you can fix that by using, well, I'm not going to even talk about that. For performance reasons, formatting can be sacrificed. I don't even know what that means. Maybe that it would take slightly longer to download a file if it had extra spaces in it, which is probably why that Google web page looks so, condensed. So we haven't seen anything different here than what we've talked about already. That's the opening tag of the title. That's the closing tag. We're not seeing any attributes yet. We're not seeing any extra words thrown in after the tag name. So let's go ahead and make an image tag, but we need some kind of image to display. Go to Google or something and find some picture you like. I'm going to look up puppy. And then I'm going to click images. And I'm going to right click on one of these puppies. He's kind of cute. Looks like a Pokemon or something. Right click and do save image as. Now if you're using a different browser, you may have to save these things in a different way. I'm using Chrome. Hopefully you can figure it out. Right click on the image, do save as, and just remember the file name. I'm going to rename my file as I name it to puppy. But I don't want to save it to the downloads directory. I want to save it into the same directory that my HTML script is in. So make sure you put it in the same directory as your HTML script. Else when you create the tag that we were just about to create, it's not going to work. And I'll have to wander around and help y'all find it. So when you do your save as, make sure it goes into your scripting directory along with your HTML file. Again, take note of the file name, save it, And we're going to add a reference to that in our file. Not that one. Go away. I'm going to add it to the top, even above the header. So img src equals, and then paste or type a quote and then make it your file name. Puppy.jpg was mine. Now when I run it, hopefully I see my dog. There he goes. Now what if we wanted to change the appearance of the text? Excuse my voice. You wanted the text to be blue, or you wanted it to be bold-faced. There's old school, 1990s style, and then there is far better. There are far better ways of doing it. I'm going to show you the old school, and then I'm going to tell you to never do it again. So say you want to make this thing red. Oh gosh, it's been so long since I've done it old school, I don't even remember. Font color tag. Yeah, that does it. Okay. So, font color equals quote red, end quote. But then we have to close our font so that everything underneath it won't also be red. So you see what I did? I typed this, font color equals red, end angle bracket, angle brace, greater than sign, followed by our text, and then slash font so it stopped being red. And Python, just to prove that it stops being red at that point. Alright, if I scroll down, it says I love HTML. Putting that color information and the font size information, formatting information in line inside the HTML is way, way, way primitive and not considered a good thing. And you can be absolutely sure that if you look at a complex web page like Amazon or Microsoft or eBay or Google or something like that, they're not changing the colors via tags like that. Instead, they're using something called CSS, which stands for Cascading Style Sheets, which gives you control over the entire document of its appearance. And we'll do an itty-bitty bit about that. But that's how you do it. You could do that, and if you wanted to make it bold, you could put a slash. You could do that. That's going to mean bold. Backslash B. And again, you would not do it this fashion if we knew about CSS. Didn't work. Didn't show Python in bold. I must have. Is it strong? Pardon me?
Did you save before you?
I thought I did. Alright, strong worked, even if bold didn't. Now notice that since I have a carriage return there, you might have expected the word Python to be on its own line. But it's not. HTML completely ignores white space. But if you wanted it on its own line, you can do that. BR. Like that. That stands for line break. And to be completely appropriate, you don't really do slash BR, but you can indicate that it's a self-closing tag by putting a slash there at the end of it. Kind of a strange syntax, but if something doesn't need a closing tag because it doesn't have anything between the opening and the closing, like this would be kind of stupid, then you can say, okay, you're a self-closing tag, and do that. Now when we run it, it says I love Python, and then it goes to the next, or I love HTML and Python. And again, changing the colors and changing the fonts or the font styles, stuff like that, directly like that, is like using stone axes rather than rifles to fight a war. Oh, here they go, strong. They do demonstrate that. And also italic can be done with the EM tag, for standing for emphasis. Heck, that might be fun to do. Let's go add some italics to our text. Pick a word that you want to italicize. Put angle EM, end angle there, and then close the tag, backslash, or angle backslash EM. All right. Tags can have attributes. The source of your file. Alt is used to display information about that image. Some attributes can be applied to every element. You can give each one an ID. You can give each one a style. You can give each one a class. You can give each one a title. ID should be unique in the document. If you're giving all your elements different IDs, they should be unique from each other. The content of title is displayed as a hint when the element is hovered over with the mouse. Let's give that a shot. Let's go on our image. Let's see if we can give it a title. So image, source equals blah, blah, blah. I'm going to put a title. Title equals I love puppies. Can I type? There, like that. No closing on the title because it's not its own tag. It's nested in the image tag. So you just type title is equal to beginning quote, some information, end quote. And then the next tag. So now, is that true? If I hover my mouse over it, does it say I love puppies? No, it doesn't. I was kind of dubious about that.
Did you save it?
Yes. Oh, it's working for y'all? Maybe I didn't save it. Alrighty, I love puppies. Okay, cool. We could hide that text all over the place if we wanted to, huh? Let's make a reference to another web page. Like if we wanted to be able to jump to D2L from our own web page. You use what's known as the anchor tag. Again, I'm going to put it up at the top because it's just easy to find if I keep sticking stuff at the top, right? So underneath body, A, or angle brace, A space href, standing for hypertext reference, we're linking to another web page, equals, and we have to give a path. So inside those quotes, I want to put a good path. Now here's what I want it to look like for y'all. https:// the one underneath the question mark, not the backslash, d2l.rose.edu. Now we need to put some text. So after your angle brace, let's put some text. D2L for rows. And then on the next line, /A to end our anchor tag. So it says D2L for rows. I can click on it, and it'll take me to D2L. So that's a hypertext link. Now what did we see when we ran it? it looks pretty ugly because this and this are right next to each other. How could we fix that? Well, we could just put a break here, like that. Would that fix it? Probably so. There we go. Heading tags, H1, H2, H3. Subheaders, paragraph tags. This is my first paragraph. This is my second paragraph. Sections. We have not talked about sections. There are two different kinds. There are divs and there are spans. Spans are when you're changing the colors of things within a line of text. Div is when you're declaring an entirely new section. Let's play with that. Let's go ahead and keep adding stuff to the top, just because it's easy to find. Yeah, I do. So let's make this the very last thing we're going to do. Thank you very much. Okay, so we're going to make a paragraph here. Now is the time for all good programmers to do something or other. What if I really like that word programmers and I want it to stand out? I'm going to put a span tag there. To make it easy to follow, I'm going to put the line, the word programmers on its own line. Angle brace span, style equals, background colon yellow, end quote, end angle. And then after the word programmers, I'm going to put slash span, like that. Now, is all that extra spacing necessary? No. Let's just make it easy to spot. So this is going to change the word programmers to have yellow background, kind of like you highlighted it. There we go, like that. This style here is part of what you do with cascading style sheets, except you can chain a whole bunch of styles on it. You can pick the font size, whether it's got an underline, whether it lights up when you move your mouse over it. You can put all that stuff there. But more importantly, you can define all your styles up at the top of the document and then just refer to it with a single word inside your spans, or even not with any words at all. We will see how to do all that next time. Did everybody at least get your images to show, your dogs and stuff like that? Okay. Any other part of it that you wish you had gotten working that you didn't? Okay, let's go ahead and stop here, and we can upload our script and our HTML file. We are now web gurus. Let's go get employed, make money. Getting ahead of ourselves, why don't we create the Dropbox first? Oh, by the way, if you're using Chrome, right-click and choose Inspect rather than View Page Source. It's kind of eye-opening. What does that do?
It's the same thing.
Aha. Yeah. Yeah. Take a look at all that. This formats it better than View Source does. It arranges it in an easy to understand, well, maybe not easy to understand, but well formatted way. Get lost. Well, we're at Dropbox X. That means we can only have 3 more days of class. Don't think that's really how it works. Alright guys, Dropbox is there. Refresh your Dropbox. And I've been recording the whole time while I did that. Oh well.